The essence of political science philosophy. Political science philosophy embarks on a profound exploration of humanity's quest to define ideal governance, probing the intricate mechanisms through which societies organize power, establish justice, and harmonize the delicate interplay between individual freedoms and collective needs. It invites us to reflect on the foundational principles that guide our political institutions and societal arrangements, illuminating the ethical and moral dimensions of power. This intellectual journey spans millennia of human thought, beginning with the philosophical inquiries of ancient civilizations that sought to understand the nature of the state, the responsibilities of rulers, and the place of citizens within the polity. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Plato and Aristotle laid the groundwork for political theory by contemplating the virtues of different political systems and the role of the individual in achieving a just society. Plato's allegory of the cave metaphorically illustrated the importance of enlightenment in governance, suggesting that only those who had grasped the deeper truths of existence were fit to rule. Aristotle, with his empirical approach, classified governments based on how they served the common good versus the interests of the few, thus emphasizing the importance of civic engagement and virtue. Moving through the ages, political philosophy evolved against the backdrop of historical transformations, absorbing new ideas and addressing emerging societal needs. In the Enlightenment, thinkers like Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau grappled with the concepts of the social contract and natural rights. Hobbes, in his work Leviathan, painted a stark picture of human nature and the necessity of a strong sovereign to prevent chaos. In contrast, Locke envisioned governance as fundamentally rooted in the consent of the governed, positing that the legitimacy of authority arises from the protection of individual rights, particularly life, liberty, and property. Rousseau, on the other hand, introduced the concept of the general will, advocating for a collective approach to democracy that sought to reconcile individual freedoms with communal responsibilities. As we transitioned into modern times, the complexities of industrialization and globalization brought forth new political paradigms and challenges, prompting philosophers like Marx, Mill, and Arendt to reflect on power dynamics, equity, and the role of ideology. Marx's critique of capitalism exposed the class struggles inherent in the system, urging a radical reevaluation of ownership and labor relations. John Stuart Mill championed individual liberty against the tyranny of the majority, advocating for a utilitarian approach to ethics that emphasized the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Hannah Arendt, in her poignant reflections on totalitarianism and the nature of power, reminded us that politics is fundamentally about human relationships and the capacity for action in the public realm. Today, political science philosophy faces a multitude of contemporary challenges, from the implications of technological advancement and climate change to the rise of populism and the questioning of democratic norms. The discourse has expanded to include voices from diverse backgrounds, encompassing feminist, post-colonial, and critical race theories that interrogate the often exclusionary practices of traditional political thought. These perspectives urge us to reconsider the very foundations of our political systems and the ways in which they may perpetuate inequality and injustice. Throughout this lecture, we will delve into these rich intellectual traditions and critically engage with the theories and ideas that continue to shape our understanding of governance. As we navigate the complexities of political science philosophy, let us remain open to the lessons of history while simultaneously addressing the pressing issues of our contemporary world. The quest for ideal governance is not merely an academic pursuit. It is a vital component of our collective endeavor to create a society that is just, equitable, and reflective of the shared aspirations of all its members. Origins of political philosophy. The origins of political philosophy can be traced back to the vibrant intellectual milieu of ancient Greece, a period marked by significant cultural ferment and innovation. It was during this epoch that the fundamental questions surrounding governance, justice, and the nature of the political community began to take shape, largely through the inquiries of three towering figures: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Socrates emerged as a transformative figure by questioning the very foundations of authority and conventional wisdom. Utilizing the dialectical method, a form of cooperative argumentative dialogue, he engaged in discussions that unraveled accepted norms, encouraging his interlocutors to examine their beliefs critically. Through the Socratic method of questioning, he sought to illuminate the complexities of moral and ethical decision-making, emphasizing the importance of self-awareness and virtuous living. Socrates argued that an unexamined life is not worth living, advocating for a deeper introspection into the values and principles that underpin human behavior and governance. His relentless pursuit of truth and moral integrity laid the groundwork for future philosophical inquiry, establishing a precedent for the critical examination of political authority and societal conventions. Building on this intellectual foundation, Plato sought to establish a more systematic political theory, most notably articulated in his seminal work, The Republic. Through the allegory of the cave, Plato presents a vision of reality that distinguishes the world of appearances from the world of forms, suggesting that the philosopher-king, armed with knowledge of the true form of justice, is best suited to lead. In The Republic, he presents his conception of an ideal state governed by reason and wisdom, where the rulers are philosophers trained in the pursuit of the good. His ideas around the tripartite nature of the soul and the corresponding structure of society underscore the belief that a well-ordered state reflects a moral order, thereby reinvigorating the discussion of justice as a central tenet of political life. Aristotle, a student of Plato, adopted a more empirical approach to politics, emphasizing the importance of observation and comparative analysis. In his seminal work, Politics, Aristotle investigates various forms of governance, categorizing them based on their efficacy and the extent to which they serve the common good. He examines the characteristics of different city-states, advocating for a balanced polity that cultivates virtue among its citizens. Aristotle's methodical analysis of political systems, the monarchy, aristocracy, and polity as positive forms and their corresponding corruptions, namely tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy, provided a robust framework for understanding political dynamics. By rooting his inquiries in the practical realities of governance and human behavior, Aristotle paved the way for the empirical study of politics, emphasizing the significance of context, culture, and the role of citizenship in the functioning of the state. In this fertile ground of ancient Greece, city-states became laboratories for governance experiments, each navigating the complexities of power and community in unique ways. Philosophers seized upon this environment to scrutinize the nature of justice, virtue, and ideal citizenship, contributing to a rich tapestry of thought that would influence generations of political theorists and practitioners. The legacy of these early thinkers remains deeply embedded in the discipline of political philosophy, as their questions and insights continue to resonate in contemporary debates about human rights, governance, and the nature of justice itself. In tracing these origins, we come to appreciate how the foundational concepts articulated by Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle not only shaped political theory, but also framed the enduring dialogue surrounding the ethical dimensions of political life. As we move forward in our exploration, we will see how these initial inquiries laid the groundwork for the evolution of political thought through the centuries. Plato's Republic, the ideal state. In his monumental work, The Republic, Plato articulates a vision of an ideal state, a utopia governed by the principles of reason, justice, and the collective good. Central to this vision is the concept of the philosopher-king, an individual who embodies wisdom and possesses a deep understanding of the form of the good. Plato posits that the wisest citizens should rule, as they are uniquely equipped to discern what is just and to govern in a manner that promotes the well-being of the entire community. In his view, true knowledge and philosophical insight are essential for effective leadership, as only those who have transcended the realm of shadows and grasped the eternal truths can make decisions that reflect the ethical and moral imperatives necessary for a just society. The theme of justice unfolds throughout the dialogue, where Plato asserts that justice is achieved when each class within the society performs its natural function. He divides the populace into three distinct classes: the rulers, philosopher-kings, the auxiliaries, warriors, and the producers, farmers, artisans, and merchants. Each class plays a vital role, reflecting the tripartite structure of the soul, reason, spirit, and appetite, as Aristotle later characterized it. For Plato, justice in the state mirrors justice in the individual. A harmonious order arises when reason governs spirit and appetite, thereby leading to a balanced and virtuous life. This alignment of personal and societal justice underscores Plato's argument that societal well-being depends on the moral development of its citizens, particularly through education and philosophical inquiry. The ideal state, as envisioned by Plato, is one of perfect social harmony where each individual contributes to the common good according to their inherent abilities and talents. This notion of a class system based on natural aptitude stands in stark contrast to democratic ideals that prioritize equality and individual autonomy. Plato critiques democracy, viewing it as a form of governance susceptible to the whims of the ignorant majority, whose lack of philosophical insight may lead to decisions that undermine the ethical foundations of society. He argues that in a democracy, the pursuit of personal desires often eclipses the communal interest, resulting in a disordered society that fosters conflict rather than harmony. Plato's vision encourages a departure from conventional notions of political participation, advocating instead for a philosophical ruling class. He believes that the philosopher-king, having cultivated the virtues of wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice, is best suited to steer the state toward the ideal. The philosopher-king's access to higher truths enables them to navigate the complexities of governance with a view toward long-term societal health, rather than short-term gains or popular approval. While Plato's Republic has been celebrated for its groundbreaking ideas about governance and the nature of justice, it also raises critical questions about the feasibility of such a system. The notion of philosopher-kings has provoked ongoing debates regarding elitism, the role of individual rights, and the potential dangers of authoritarianism. Throughout history, thinkers have wrestled with the implications of Plato's vision, questioning whether such a rigid class structure and reliance on a ruling elite could truly yield the ideal society he envisioned. Ultimately, Plato's Republic invites us to engage with enduring questions about justice, governance, and the nature of the good life. As we reflect on his arguments, we are prompted to consider the virtues and limitations of our own political systems. The quest for a just society compels us to acknowledge the complexities of human nature and the challenges inherent in aligning individual ambitions with the collective well-being, a tension that continues to resonate in modern political discourse. The exploration of these themes, rooted in Plato's foundational work, remains essential as we seek to understand and navigate the intricacies of governance in our contemporary world. Aristotle's political theory. Aristotle's political theory, articulated primarily in his seminal work Politics, offers a comprehensive framework for understanding the various forms of government and their relationships to the common good. Unlike his mentor Plato, who sought an idealized form of governance, Aristotle grounded his analysis in empirical observation and the practical realities of existing political systems. His method of classification categorizes governments based on who exercises power and for whom that power is exercised, which forms the foundation of his normative evaluation of governance. Aristotle identifies three primary forms of rule, each characterized by the number of rulers and their intentions, whether they govern for the sake of the common good or for their own benefit. The first monarchy represents the rule by one, ideally governing in the interests of the whole community. Aristotle envisions a benevolent monarch who possesses the wisdom and virtue necessary to lead effectively and justly. However, he acknowledges that monarchy can devolve into tyranny, where the ruler acts out of self-interest rather than for the populace, demonstrating the volatility inherent in concentrated power. The second form, aristocracy, involves the rule by a few, specifically those deemed to possess the relevant virtues and wisdom needed to govern fairly. Like monarchy, aristocracy resides ideally within the realm of the common good. It is marked by leadership characterized by excellence, with the governing elite acting in the interests of the broader society. However, Aristotle warns that aristocracy can also decline into oligarchy, where the ruling few prioritize their own interests at the expense of the greater populace, creating a disparity in wealth and power. The third political form Aristotle identifies is polity, which embodies the rule by many. This form, essentially a more equitable and inclusive government, combines elements of democracy and oligarchy. Aristotle asserts that polity is the most stable and desirable form of governance, as it allows for broader participation and thus more equitable representation of diverse interests. In his view, a political community thrives when the balance of power is distributed among a wider population, allowing for active engagement in civic life and preserving the common good. A polity can guard against the pitfalls of tyranny and oligarchy by ensuring that no single group dominates power. Central to Aristotle's conception of a just and effective government is the idea of constitutional balance. He advocates for a mixed government that incorporates aspects of monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy, blending them to harness their strengths while mitigating their weaknesses. This mixed constitution creates a system of checks and balances that fosters stability, preventing any single faction from overreaching its power. In this way, Aristotle seeks to achieve a harmonious and functional political order that serves the interests of all citizens rather than the few. Furthermore, Aristotle emphasizes the vital role of citizenship in his political theory, framing citizenship not merely as a legal status, but as an active engagement in civic participation. For Aristotle, a citizen is someone who partakes in the administration of justice and the making of laws, an individual who contributes to the political community's deliberations and outcomes. This active participation in public life is crucial to the health of the polity, as it cultivates civic virtue and fosters a sense of community. He warns that apathy or disengagement leads to the deterioration of governance, underscoring the idea that a flourishing state necessitates an informed and involved citizenry. In summary, Aristotle's political theory provides a nuanced analysis of governance that emphasizes the common good and the importance of active participation in civic life. His classification of governments encourages us to critically examine the structures of power that shape our societies, illuminating the delicate balance required to maintain justice and equity. Through his work, Aristotle establishes a lasting legacy in political thought, inviting ongoing reflection on the ideals of citizenship, governance, and the role of individuals in shaping their communities. As we engage with his insights, we are prompted to consider the contemporary implications of his theories in our own political landscapes, recognizing the relevance of his emphasis on mixed government and civic involvement in striving for a just society. Machiavelli, Power and Pragmatism. Niccolò Machiavelli, a towering figure of Renaissance political thought, fundamentally revolutionized the study of politics with his pragmatic approach. In his landmark work, The Prince, he presents a stark departure from the idealistic views of politics that had previously dominated philosophical discourse. Rather than envisioning politics as an extension of moral philosophy, Machiavelli describes it as a realm characterized by realism and practicality, emphasizing how politics is practiced in the complex tapestry of human affairs. This shift towards political realism encourages a hard-eyed evaluation of power dynamics, focusing on the maintenance and consolidation of authority rather than the pursuit of ethical ideals. At the heart of Machiavelli's political theory lies the concept of virtù and fortuna. Virtù refers to the personal qualities, skills, and capabilities of the leader, attributes that empower them to navigate the challenges of governance and secure their position. This can encompass intelligence, strength, cunning, and the ability to inspire loyalty. In contrast, fortuna represents the unpredictable external forces and circumstances that can impact political success, factors beyond an individual's control, such as public opinion, alliances, and sheer chance. For Machiavelli, effective leadership requires a delicate balance between these two forces. Successful rulers must harness their own virtù to shape their destiny, while also being flexible and adaptable to the whims of fortuna. Those leaders who can assess and respond to changing conditions with agility are the ones most likely to thrive in the competitive arena of statecraft. One of Machiavelli's most controversial assertions is encapsulated in the adage that the ends justify the means. This phrase distills his belief that the pursuit of political stability and state security may necessitate actions that appear immoral or unethical. In The Prince, Machiavelli argues that a ruler must sometimes resort to deception, manipulation, and even cruelty to maintain order and protect the state. He argues that the ultimate goal of any prince is to secure the stability and power of his state, even if this requires morally ambiguous tactics. Consequently, Machiavelli challenges conventional morality by placing the welfare of the state above personal ethics, suggesting that effective governance may require sacrifices in terms of moral integrity. Machiavelli's revolutionary approach fundamentally reshapes our understanding of political theory. By separating politics from ethics, he highlights the complexities of power dynamics and the often harsh realities of leadership. While earlier thinkers like Plato and Aristotle emphasized the role of virtue and moral ideals in governance, Machiavelli contends that effective rulers must be pragmatic and strategic, willing to adopt a variety of methods to achieve their objectives. His insights resonate within contemporary political discourse, where the tension between moral considerations and realpolitik continues to provoke debate. Furthermore, Machiavelli's emphasis on the role of individual agency alongside external circumstances challenges us to consider the interactive nature of leadership and governance. It propels us to recognize that the political landscape is neither fixed nor purely shaped by virtuous intentions, but rather a dynamic interplay of human action and unpredictable forces. In doing so, Machiavelli invites us to reflect on the qualities that define effective leadership in our own times and the ethical challenges that invariably accompany the exercise of power. Ultimately, Machiavelli's contributions remain as relevant today as they were in the 16th century. His pragmatic analysis of power and governance compels us to acknowledge the often uncomfortable truths of political life, urging us to grapple with the moral dilemmas inherent in leadership and the pursuit of stability. By confronting these realities head-on, we engage with the complexities of statecraft and the nature of human behavior, an exploration that continues to be vital for understanding our political institutions and practices in the modern world. Social contract theory. Social contract theory represents a significant philosophical framework for understanding the origins and legitimacy of government, proposing that political authority stems from an implicit agreement between individuals within a society. This theory emerged during a period of profound political upheaval and intellectual exploration in the 17th and 18th centuries, when thinkers grappled with the nature of human existence, the formation of social order, and the principles underlying legitimate authority. Among the foremost contributors to social contract theory is Thomas Hobbes, whose insights laid the groundwork for later theorists, and profoundly influenced the evolution of political philosophy. Hobbes's depiction of the state of nature is often characterized as nasty, brutish, and short. In his seminal work, Leviathan, he portrays a world without formal governance where individuals act solely according to their own self-interests. In this chaotic and violent setting, life is fraught with insecurity as human beings, driven by innate desires and competitive instincts, confront each other in a struggle for survival. Without established rules or the authority of government, Hobbes argues that humanity would descend into a state of perpetual conflict, marked by fear and mistrust. This bleak vision of human existence underscores the necessity of a governing authority to ensure peace and security. To escape this precarious condition, Hobbes posits that individuals enter into a social contract, surrendering certain freedoms and natural rights in exchange for protection and order. By collectively agreeing to give up some degree of autonomy, citizens empower a sovereign authority, be it a monarch or a collective body, that exists to maintain peace and enforce laws. This contract is not merely about governance. It represents a foundational commitment to the collective well-being of the community, where authority is justified through the consent of the governed. The legitimacy of the state, according to Hobbes, hinges on this consent. The sovereign's authority is derived from the collective agreement of the people, who acknowledge the necessity of a strong central power to maintain order and prevent the chaos of the state of nature. Once established, the government derives its power not from divine right or tradition, but rather from the will of the people who bestowed it. Thus, in Hobbes's social contract, a legitimate state emerges as a protector of citizens' rights and a provider of social stability, emphasizing the importance of security as a fundamental human need. Following Hobbes, other social contract theorists, such as John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, expanded and reinterpreted these ideas, shaping their philosophies in response to the conditions of their times. Locke, for instance, envisioned a more optimistic state of nature characterized by reason and mutual respect. He argued that individuals retain certain inalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and property, when entering into a social contract, thereby empowering governments to protect those rights, rather than simply impose order. Locke's vision of government as a guardian of individual rights laid the groundwork for liberal democratic thought and has had a lasting impact on modern political theory. Rousseau, on the other hand, presented a radical critique of inequality and the corruption of civilization, emphasizing the need for a social contract that reflects the general will of the people, thereby prioritizing collective interest over individual self-interest. His ideas called for a direct form of democracy that fosters true freedom through active participation in governance. In essence, social contract theory provides a foundational framework for examining the relationship between individuals and their governments. It elucidates how authority is legitimized through mutual consent, highlighting the fundamental bargain that exists between citizens and their rulers, protection and order in exchange for the relinquishment of certain freedoms. This exploration into the origins of government encourages ongoing dialogue about the nature of authority, individual rights, and the responsibilities of citizenship. As we navigate contemporary political contexts, the principles underlying social contract theory remain deeply relevant. We are continually faced with questions regarding the extent of governmental power, the protection of individual liberties, and the collective responsibilities of citizens. These enduring themes invite us to reflect on the agreements we enter into as members of society, shaping our understanding of legitimacy, accountability, and the ideal relationship between the individual and the state. John Locke, Liberalism and Natural Rights. John Locke stands as a pivotal figure in the tradition of political thought, particularly in his robust articulation of liberalism and natural rights. His ideas significantly influenced the development of modern democratic theory and the frameworks of governance that emerged in the wake of his writings. At the heart of Locke's philosophy is the notion that all humans inherently possess certain rights, specifically the rights to life, liberty, and property, which exist independently of government and are intrinsic to human nature. Locke's concept of natural rights posits that these rights are not granted by any government or authority. Rather, they are inherent to every individual by virtue of their humanity. This understanding of inherent rights represents a fundamental departure from earlier political philosophies, particularly those that espouse the divine right of kings or absolute monarchy. For Locke, the legitimacy of any governmental authority rests on its ability to protect these natural rights. This foundational principle leads to his assertion that the primary function of government is to safeguard the life, liberty, and property of its citizens, thus reinforcing the idea that authority is conditional and contingent upon fulfilling this critical role. In Locke's vision, the concept of limited government emerges, reflecting his belief that the government should operate within defined boundaries to protect individual rights rather than infringe upon them. The power of the state, in his framework, should be derived from the consent of the governed, ensuring that political authority is exercised only to the extent necessary for the protection of individuals' natural rights. This belief in consent as a fundamental principle of governance laid the groundwork for modern democratic systems, highlighting the importance of accountability and responsiveness in government. Locke also championed the separation of powers as a means to guard against the tyranny and abuse of authority. He argued that the concentration of power in a single entity poses a grave threat to individual freedoms and public welfare. By advocating for a division of government responsibilities among distinct branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, Locke's model aims to establish a system in which power is checked and balanced, thus preventing any one group or individual from monopolizing authority. This concept has significantly influenced the structure of many contemporary democratic governments, underscoring the vital importance of institutional accountability and the rule of law. Moreover, Locke asserted the right to revolution, which serves as a powerful endorsement of active citizenship and the duty of individuals to protect their rights. He argued that when a government fails to uphold its responsibility to safeguard natural rights or abuses its power, citizens are not merely entitled but obligated to challenge and overthrow such a government. This assertion of the right to revolution resonates deeply with the principles of democratic governance, highlighting the idea that legitimacy flows from the will of the people and that citizens must take an active role in preserving their freedoms. Locke's ideas on natural rights, consent, limited government, and the right to revolution profoundly influenced democratic revolutions around the world, including the American and French revolutions. His emphasis on individual rights and the belief in a government accountable to its citizens laid the philosophical groundwork for constitutional democracies. His writings inspired framers of democratic constitutions, emphasizing the need to enshrine individual freedoms and rights at the heart of governance. In summary, John Locke's contributions to political philosophy articulate a vision of liberalism grounded in the inherent rights of individuals and the necessity of a government limited in its powers. His principles continue to resonate in contemporary discussions about democracy, human rights, and the role of individuals in governance. By examining Locke's profound insights, we are encouraged to reflect on our own political systems and the extent to which they uphold the rights and freedoms that are essential to human dignity. His legacy remains a cornerstone of political thought and action, reminding us of the enduring significance of the principles of consent, accountability, and the active participation of citizens in shaping their political realities. Karl Marx, Critical Political Philosophy. Karl Marx stands as one of the most influential figures in the development of political philosophy, offering a profound critique of capitalist societies through his materialist analysis of history. Marx's insights delve deeply into the interplay between economic structures and social relations, positing that the material conditions of society fundamentally shape all aspects of human existence, including politics, culture, and ideology. This emphasis on the role of material conditions represents a significant departure from the idealistic frameworks of earlier political theorists, positioning economic factors as the underpinning of societal development and historical change. At the core of Marx's analysis lies the concept of class struggle, which he identifies as the driving force behind historical development and social change. He delineates society into two primary classes: the bourgeoisie, or capitalist class, who own the means of production, and the proletariat, the working class, who sell their labor for wages. Marx argues that this inherent conflict between these classes arises from their fundamentally opposing interests. While the bourgeoisie seeks to maximize profits, the proletariat strives for better wages and working conditions. The tension between these classes is not merely an economic phenomenon, but a social and political one as well, as it fuels the dynamics that shape governance and societal organization. Marx's perspective leads to his vision of revolution as an essential pathway for achieving social transformation. He advocates for a revolutionary movement in which the proletariat, recognizing their collective disenfranchisement, rises against the bourgeoisie to seize control of the means of production. This revolutionary act is not merely a matter of political upheaval, it signifies a profound reorganization of society that seeks to dismantle the capitalist mode of production, which, in Marx's view, is inherently exploitative. By taking control of the means of production, workers would not only liberate themselves from exploitation, but also lay the groundwork for a new societal structure based on equality and communal ownership. Marx's ultimate vision culminates in the establishment of communism, a classless society characterized by the common ownership of resources and the means of production. In this envisioned society, the distinctions that arise from class hierarchy would dissolve, allowing individuals to contribute to the community according to their abilities and receive according to their needs. Marx believed that this transition towards communism would necessitate a period of socialism, during which the working class would hold political power, gradually dismantling capitalist structures and fostering a sense of shared ownership and responsibility. Marx's framework fundamentally transformed political thought, as he provided a critical lens through which to analyze historical and contemporary social phenomena. His materialist conception of history, often referred to as historical materialism, positions economic relations not just as the context of social life, but as the primary determinant of political organization and ideology. Marx insisted that political systems are ultimately expressions of economic power dynamics, revealing how class interests shape laws, governance, and cultural narratives. His critical analysis invited scholars, activists, and political theorists to reassess the nature of power, identity, and change within societies. Moreover, Marx's critique of ideology, where he argued that ruling classes perpetuate beliefs that serve their interests, challenged the prevailing notions of objectivity in political and social discourse. He urged individuals to recognize how dominant ideologies mask the realities of exploitation and inequality, suggesting that genuine understanding and awareness are prerequisites for revolutionary consciousness among the working class. In conclusion, Karl Marx's contribution to political philosophy offers a comprehensive and radical analysis of the relationship between economic structures and social relations. His focus on material conditions, class struggle, and the potential for revolutionary change encourages a re-evaluation of power dynamics and collective action. As we reflect on Marx's insights, we are prompted to consider not only the historical implications of his theories, but also their relevance in contemporary discussions about capitalism, inequality, and the possibilities for social transformation. His legacy challenges us to engage critically with the structures that shape our world and to envision pathways toward a more equitable and just society. Feminist political philosophy. Feminist political philosophy represents a transformative approach to understanding power, governance, and social justice by critically examining how gender shapes political systems and influences the dynamics of citizenship and authority. This branch of political thought emerged as a response to traditional political theories that often reflect a masculine bias, failing to adequately account for the experiences, needs, and contributions of women and other marginalized groups. By re-evaluating established theories and engaging with diverse perspectives, feminist political philosophy seeks to elucidate the intricate ways in which personal experiences intersect with broader political structures. At the heart of feminist political thought is the assertion that the personal is political. This phrase encapsulates the idea that private sphere power dynamics, such as those found in familial, domestic, and intimate relationships, are not separate from political systems but rather reflect and reinforce them. For instance, inequities in household labor, domestic violence, and reproductive rights illustrate how personal experiences can be deeply political. Feminists argue that power relations within the home set the stage for wider societal inequalities, revealing how personal choices and institutional frameworks are inextricably linked. By highlighting these connections, feminist theorists advocate for a comprehensive understanding of power that encompasses both the private and public spheres. A central tenet of feminist political philosophy is the concept of intersectionality, which recognizes that individuals do not experience identities in isolation, but rather navigate multiple, overlapping social categories such as race, class, gender, and sexuality. Coined by Kimberlé Crenshaw, intersectionality emphasizes that the experiences of oppression are shaped by these intersecting identities, leading to complex and unique vulnerabilities that must be acknowledged in political discourse. For instance, the struggles faced by a working-class woman of color can differ significantly from those encountered by a middle-class white woman, and these differences must be understood to address the nuances of systemic inequality effectively. Intersectionality calls for an inclusive approach that considers how various forms of oppression interact, shaping individuals' experiences and political realities. Another key contribution of feminist political philosophy is the emphasis on care ethics, which centers relationships and caring labor as fundamental to political theory. Traditional political theories have often prioritized individualism, autonomy, and self-interest, relegating caregiving and relational responsibilities to the margins. Feminist theorists argue that care, encompassing nurturing relationships, community building, and collective responsibility, should be recognized as integral to political theory and practice. By valuing care ethics, feminist philosophy challenges the notion of the self-sufficient individual found in classical liberalism, promoting a vision of politics that acknowledges interdependence and the essential role of care work in sustaining social cohesion and well-being. Feminist political philosophy also advocates for the inclusion of diverse voices and marginalized perspectives within political discourse. This inclusive approach challenges the dominant narratives that have traditionally shaped political theory and practice, urging for a more representative and equitable dialogue about power, governance, and justice. By centering the experiences of those often excluded from mainstream conversations, such as women, LGBTQ+ individuals, people of color, and the economically disadvantaged, feminist theorists advocate for policy frameworks and political structures that prioritize equity and justice. In confronting the masculine bias entrenched in traditional political theories, feminist political philosophy expands our understanding of citizenship and power structures. It urges us to reconsider the ways in which gender shapes political engagement and influences the implementation of laws, policies, and social practices. Through this lens, we come to recognize that political systems are not neutral, but instead reflect the values and priorities of those in power, often perpetuating inequalities. In summary, feminist political philosophy provides a vital framework for exploring the intersections of gender, power, and social justice. By examining the connections between the personal and political, advocating for intersectionality, promoting care ethics, and valuing diverse perspectives, feminist theorists challenge the status quo and encourage a more inclusive and equitable political landscape. In doing so, they not only enrich our understanding of political theory, but also inspire meaningful activism and systemic change, urging us all to engage with the complexities of power and the shared responsibilities we hold within our communities. Post-colonial political thought. Post-colonial political thought emerges as a vital framework for understanding the enduring impacts of colonialism on contemporary political dynamics and social relations. It critically examines the legacies of colonialism and imperialism, interrogating how these historical processes continue to shape power structures, identities, and governance in the modern world. Central to post-colonial theory is the critique of Eurocentrism, which challenges the notion that Western political assumptions and models are universal. Thinkers such as Edward Said and Gayatri Spivak play instrumental roles in this critique, questioning the binary distinction often made between the civilized West and the backward non-West. They argue that such portrayals not only diminish the complexity of non-Western societies, but also reinforce a paternalistic view that positions Western intervention as necessary or beneficial. Said's influential work, especially in Orientalism, exposes the ways in which the West has constructed an image of the East that is often steeped in stereotypes and simplifications. This construction serves to justify colonial domination by depicting Eastern societies as needing Western guidance. Spivak, particularly in her essay Can the Subaltern Speak, explores the limitations of Western discourse in representing marginalized voices, emphasizing the need for non-Western individuals to reclaim their narratives and challenge the dominant epistemological frameworks imposed upon them. Together, these thinkers advocate for a re-examination of knowledge production and the representation of non-Western peoples in political theory, calling for a more nuanced understanding that recognizes indigenous traditions and local governance models. Decolonization, a central theme in post-colonial thought, transcends mere political independence from colonial rule. It encompasses the pursuit of intellectual sovereignty and the reclamation of indigenous knowledge systems and governance traditions. Thinkers like Frantz Fanon and Ngugi wa Thiong'o illuminate this process. Fanon, in works such as The Wretched of the Earth, emphasizes the psychological and cultural dimensions of colonization and the necessity of a radical transformation of identity for formerly colonized peoples. He argues that true liberation requires not only the overthrow of colonial powers, but also a fundamental restructuring of societal values and norms that have been shaped by colonial experiences. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, on the other hand, advocates for the revitalization of African languages and cultural expressions as a form of resistance against colonial languages and ideologies. His works emphasize the importance of reclaiming African narratives and knowledge systems to foster authentic political identities and enable communities to define their futures on their own terms. Through their writings, both thinkers highlight the ongoing struggle for cultural and intellectual dignity as integral to the broader project of decolonization. In the context of global justice, post-colonial thought critically addresses the lasting economic exploitation and power imbalances that persist in the aftermath of colonialism. Scholars such as Amartya Sen and Akile Mbembe explore how historical injustices continue to shape contemporary inequalities, urging a re-evaluation of international political structures to promote equity and accountability. Sen's capabilities approach underscores the importance of allowing individuals, not just states, to flourish by addressing systemic barriers to development and ensuring that resources are distributed equitably. Mbembe, in his examination of post-colonial Africa, underscores the complexities of identity, power, and memory that shape the lives of those living in formerly colonized nations, all while advocating for a reimagined global framework where justice is pursued as an ongoing process rather than a defined endpoint. Post-colonial theory thus serves as a critical lens through which to examine the ways colonial legacies shape contemporary politics. It not only seeks to recover and value indigenous traditions and governance systems, but also strives to challenge and dismantle Western political dominance and its epistemological foundations. By foregrounding the voices and experiences of marginalized communities and illuminating the intricate connections between history, power, and identity, post-colonial political thought offers profound insights into the dynamics of global politics and social justice. In sum, post-colonial political thought invites us to engage with the complexities of historical legacies and their ongoing influence on contemporary societies. It challenges us to reconsider dominant narratives, embrace diverse perspectives, and work toward creating more equitable political structures that honor the richness of cultural diversity and the myriad ways of knowing and being in the world. Through this lens, we are better equipped to address the injustices of the past and construct more inclusive futures in the realm of global politics. Contemporary political ideologies. In the landscape of contemporary political thought, ideologies continue to evolve in response to the dynamic challenges presented by globalization, technological advancements, and shifting societal values. These changes not only reshape existing ideologies but also give rise to hybrid perspectives that blend elements from various political traditions. This ongoing evolution reflects the complexities of the modern world, where traditional categories of political thought can no longer neatly contain the diverse opinions and beliefs that orient people's thoughts and actions regarding governance and society. Liberalism remains one of the most influential political ideologies in contemporary discourse, emphasizing individual liberty, free markets, and limited government intervention. This ideology holds that personal freedoms are paramount and that a capitalist economy with minimal state interference fosters innovation and prosperity. Rooted in Enlightenment principles, liberalism advocates for the protection of civil liberties, democratic governance, and the promotion of human rights. However, as the challenges of economic inequality and social justice become increasingly pronounced, liberalism faces critiques and calls for its adaptation to better address systemic disparities while retaining its core commitments to individual rights and freedoms. In contrast, conservatism emphasizes the importance of traditional values, social stability, and a cautious approach to change. Conservatives often argue that societal cohesion stems from respecting historical institutions, cultural norms, and inherited practices. This ideology prioritizes gradual reform over radical transformation, asserting that stability is achieved through a reverence for the past. In contemporary contexts, conservative thought grapples with debates around identity politics, national sovereignty, and the role of religion in public life, reflecting the tensions inherent in maintaining cohesion while adapting to modernity's demands. Socialism, with its focus on economic equality, collective ownership, and social welfare, asserts that capitalism inherently leads to inequities that must be addressed through systemic change. Contemporary socialist movements emphasize the need for robust social safety nets, access to healthcare and education, alongside an evaluation of the means of production's ownership. With growing concerns over wealth disparities exacerbated by globalization and technological change, socialism evolves to incorporate new ideas about sustainability and social justice, presenting alternatives to the capitalist framework that many believe is failing large segments of the population. Environmentalism has emerged as a distinct political ideology, morphing from a movement focused primarily on conservation to a robust political force advocating for ecological sustainability and the need to protect the planet for future generations. This ideology challenges the notion of unlimited growth inherent in capitalist systems, positing that the pursuit of profit should not come at the expense of ecological health. Environmentalism brings forth discussions on climate justice, the importance of biodiversity, and sustainable development, engaging with global challenges that require coordinated efforts across national lines. A more recent development in political thought is techno-libertarianism, which emphasizes digital freedom, minimal regulation, and technological solutions to societal issues. Proponents of techno-libertarianism advocate for the uncensored flow of information and innovation, often championing decentralized technologies like blockchain as vehicles for social and political change. This ideology reflects a belief in the transformative power of technology to liberate individuals from traditional forms of regulation, while also raising questions about privacy, surveillance, and the ethics of technological advancements. As the political landscape generates increasingly complex social realities, hybrid ideologies have begun to take shape. Combining elements from liberalism, conservatism, socialism, and other philosophies, these perspectives seek to address contemporary issues in a manner that acknowledges the interconnectedness of various ideological tenets. For instance, some movements advocate for a green socialism that emphasizes environmental protection alongside social welfare, highlighting the importance of a sustainable economy that recognizes the rights of both people and the planet. In summary, contemporary political ideologies are in constant flux, adapting to an ever-changing world shaped by globalization, technological advancement, and emerging social values. This evolution prompts critical reflections on traditional political categories, encouraging the exploration of new, hybrid perspectives that seek to reconcile diverse viewpoints while addressing the pressing challenges of our time. Ideological debates become not only about defending established beliefs, but also about engaging in collaborative efforts to navigate complexity, foster social justice, and forge pathways toward a more equitable and sustainable future. Through these dialogues, society can articulate and achieve ideals that resonate with the multifaceted realities of modern life. Democracy in the modern world. Democracy in the modern world occupies a landscape characterized by both significant advancements and profound challenges. As a system of governance which emphasizes the role of the people in shaping their own political destinies, democracy has taken many forms. One such form is that of electoral democracies, which are recognized for establishing basic democratic institutions such as free and fair elections, the rule of law, and protections for civil liberties. Today, many countries around the globe claim some level of democratic governance, allowing vast populations to engage with political processes. However, these systems are often fraught with complexities and inconsistencies that can undermine their effectiveness and legitimacy. Despite the widespread adoption of democratic frameworks, recent years have seen a troubling trend: democratic decline. This regression has manifested in various ways, including the erosion of democratic norms, the rise of authoritarian practices, and the restriction of political freedoms. Global reports indicate that a significant number of countries have experienced declines in their democratic institutions and civil liberties, leading to widespread concerns about the stability and future of democracy worldwide. This decline is often fueled by factors such as increasing populism, political polarization, and the spread of disinformation, which collectively challenge the foundational principles of a healthy democratic society. Populism, in particular, has surged across various regions, characterized by leaders who appeal directly to the populace while often disregarding established democratic procedures and norms. The populist narrative frequently positions the people against perceived elites, fostering division and sometimes inciting hostility against political opponents. This polarization creates an environment where constructive discourse becomes increasingly difficult, leading communities to fracture along ideological lines. As citizens align with sharply defined political identities, mutual trust erodes, making consensus building and collaborative governance more challenging. Compounding these issues is the pervasive spread of disinformation, particularly through social media platforms and other digital channels. The rapid dissemination of misleading information can undermine informed public discourse and distort electoral processes. In this environment, determining what constitutes credible information becomes more difficult, hampering citizen engagement and decision-making. As misinformation proliferates, it poses a serious threat not only to electoral integrity, but also to the overall health of democratic institutions. Amid these challenges, however, the advent of digital technology has provided unique opportunities for civic engagement. Since around 2010, there has been a notable increase in online participation platforms, which facilitate various forms of engagement, from grassroots organizing to real-time discussions of political issues. Social media platforms, blogs, and dedicated civic engagement apps enable individuals to mobilize movements, raise awareness, and coordinate collective action more efficiently than ever before. Moreover, online resources allow citizens to access information, educate themselves on issues, and connect with others, potentially bridging gaps that traditional political structures have failed to address. The rise of digital participation signifies a shift in the way democracy is practiced and understood. It offers mechanisms for marginalized voices to be heard, fosters participatory governance, and enhances accountability by placing more information in the public realm. However, this digital landscape also invites new challenges, such as the risk of algorithmic biases, echo chambers, and further polarization, highlighting the need for robust digital literacy and critical engagement among citizens. Globally, the number of people living under various forms of democratic systems has expanded, but the substance and quality of democracy can vary widely. Some nations may hold elections, yet experience significant limitations on political freedoms or civil rights, leading to debates about the effectiveness of their democratic claims. Consequently, understanding democracy requires not just recognizing the existence of institutions, but evaluating the extent to which they promote genuine participation, inclusivity, and accountability. In conclusion, democracy in the modern world stands at a crossroads, facing unparalleled challenges from populism, polarization, and disinformation, while simultaneously harnessing the potential for increased digital participation. As democratic actors seek to navigate this complex landscape, it is crucial to reaffirm the commitments to civil liberties, dialogue, and informed engagement that underpin a healthy democratic system. Embracing the opportunities presented by digital technologies while addressing their concomitant risks may pave the way for revitalized and resilient democratic practices, ultimately helping to ensure that democracy serves as a meaningful and effective framework for governance in the 21st century. Political ethics and moral philosophy. Political ethics serves as a crucial intersection between moral philosophy and the practical questions of governance. It explores how ethical principles inform political decisions and the moral responsibilities of individuals and institutions within society. Rooted in various philosophical traditions, political ethics evaluates the tensions inherent in political life, particularly the conflicts between means and ends and between individual rights and collective welfare. As political actors navigate complex social landscapes, the application of ethical theories becomes essential in shaping policies and guiding the conduct of leaders and citizens alike. One of the primary frameworks within political ethics is consequentialism, which evaluates actions based on their outcomes. This ethical approach posits that the morality of an action is determined by its results, advocating for the principle of the greatest good for the greatest number. Utilitarianism, a well-known form of consequentialism developed by philosophers such as Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, provides a practical lens for assessing policy decisions. According to this perspective, policymakers should aim to maximize overall welfare, making decisions that lead to the highest level of happiness and minimal suffering for the largest segment of the population. While this approach offers a concrete method for evaluating the impact of policies, it also raises ethical dilemmas, such as the potential for justifying harm to minorities if it leads to greater benefits for the majority. In contrast, deontology introduces a different perspective focused on the inherent rightness of actions rather than their consequences. Grounded in the philosophies of Immanuel Kant, deontological ethics emphasizes universal principles and duties that guide moral behavior. This rights-based approach asserts that individuals have intrinsic rights that must be respected, regardless of the outcomes those actions may produce. In political contexts, deontological ethics calls attention to the importance of upholding justice, equality, and individual rights, even when these principles may conflict with utilitarian considerations. This ethical framework serves as a potent reminder that the ends do not always justify the means, and that moral imperatives must inform governance and political action. Another significant tradition in political ethics is virtue ethics, which emphasizes the importance of character development and the cultivation of civic virtues. Rooted in the teachings of Aristotle and later thinkers, virtue ethics encourages individuals to develop traits such as wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice as foundational to ethical conduct. In the realm of politics, virtue ethics promotes the idea that a well-ordered society relies on citizens and leaders who prioritize the common good and engage in public life with integrity and moral purpose. This community-centered approach encourages governance that fosters civic engagement and collective action toward shared values, suggesting that political systems should not only focus on mechanisms of power, but also on the character of the individuals who inhabit them. The examination of political ethics reveals the complexities inherent in governance, particularly the tensions that arise between competing ethical frameworks. Policymakers often grapple with the challenge of reconciling the pursuit of the common good with the protection of individual rights, leading to difficult decisions that may involve trade-offs between different values. For instance, measures aimed at enhancing public safety may encroach on personal freedoms, prompting debates about the ethical implications of such policies. Moreover, political ethics prompts critical reflections on accountability, transparency, and the moral obligations of leaders. Ethical governance requires a commitment to integrity, the wise use of power, and responsive decision-making that prioritizes the best interests of the community. Political actors are called to engage not only with the practical implications of their actions, but also with the ethical ideals that underpin their governance philosophies. In conclusion, political ethics and moral philosophy are integral to understanding the complexities of political life and governance. By applying various ethical theories, consequentialism, deontology, and virtue ethics, to the dilemmas faced in the political sphere, we gain insight into the intricate dance between means and ends, and between individual rights and collective welfare. These ethical frameworks serve not only as guidelines for political behavior, but also as a foundation for fostering a just and equitable society. Ultimately, the ongoing discourse on political ethics challenges us to aspire toward governance that embodies moral integrity, equity, and the genuine representation of the diverse interests and values within our communities. Power dynamics and political theory. Understanding power is fundamental to the study of political philosophy, as it shapes not only the structures of governance but also the dynamics of social relations, cultural interactions, and institutional frameworks. Power is often viewed through multifaceted lenses, revealing how it operates within various contexts and influences human behavior. Modern theorists have expanded the discourse around power to encompass a range of types and mechanisms, each providing insight into different aspects of political life. One of the key conceptualizations of power is coercive power. understood as the use of force or the threat of force. Max Weber's contributions to political theory highlight the role of coercion in maintaining authority and social order. Weber famously identified the state as the entity that possesses a legitimate monopoly on the use of physical force within a given territory. This understanding recognizes that coercive power can be a tool for enforcing compliance, maintaining order, and preventing disorder, but it also raises ethical questions about the implications of such power. The reliance on coercion often invites scrutiny of moral legitimacy and the right of authority to use force. In contrast, institutional power focuses on the rules, norms, and procedures that govern social interactions and institutional practices. Michel Foucault's analysis emphasizes how power operates through discursive formations and the normalization of certain practices within societal institutions. Rather than being solely top-down, this form of power flows through social networks and is embedded within societal structures. Foucault argues that institutions such as schools, hospitals, and prisons exert power by shaping knowledge, defining norms, and controlling behavior. This diffusion of power highlights its pervasive nature and challenges traditional notions of authority, suggesting that power can be exercised in subtle and often invisible ways. Another significant dimension of power is ideological power, which encompasses the control of ideas, beliefs, and information. Antonio Gramsci's theory of cultural hegemony underscores how dominant groups maintain their power not only through coercion but also by shaping societal norms and values. Gramsci posits that ruling classes secure consent by promoting ideologies that appear natural and beneficial to the broader population. This form of power operates at the level of consciousness, influencing how individuals perceive their interests and align with prevailing ideologies. The control of ideas plays a crucial role in political theory, as it reveals how cultural narratives can legitimize or delegitimize political authority and influence collective behavior. Economic power pertains to the control of resources and capital, emphasizing how economic structures shape social relations and political dynamics. Karl Marx's analysis of capitalism highlights the ways in which economic power is intertwined with class relations, shaping the experiences and opportunities of individuals within society. For Marx, economic structures influence political power, with the bourgeoisie exploiting the proletariat to maintain their dominance. This perspective underscores the importance of understanding economic relationships in the context of political theory, as they significantly impact individual agency, class struggle, and the distribution of power in society. Beyond these more traditional forms of power, soft power represents a modern conception introduced by Joseph Nye, which emphasizes cultural influence and persuasion rather than coercion. Soft power operates through the attraction of culture, values, and ideas, allowing states to shape the preferences and behaviors of others without relying on military force or economic sanctions. This form of power is evident in diplomacy, international relations, and global cultural exchanges, where the ability to project a favorable image can enhance a nation's influence on the world stage. Soft power presents an important complement to hard power, suggesting that effective governance and political strategy require understanding and engaging with the subtleties of cultural and ideological dynamics. In summary, the exploration of power dynamics within political theory reveals the complexity of how power operates in society. From coercive and institutional power to ideological, economic, and soft power, modern theorists underscore that power is not merely a tool wielded by governments, but a pervasive element embedded in social relations and cultural frameworks. Recognizing the multifaceted nature of power allows for a deeper understanding of the ethical implications of authority, governance, and social change. Through this lens, political philosophy can grapple with contemporary challenges and aspirations, fostering a more nuanced discourse on the nature of power and its role in shaping our political realities. Globalization and political philosophy. Globalization has significantly reshaped the landscape of political philosophy, introducing complex dynamics that challenge traditional notions of state sovereignty, authority, and citizenship. As national borders become increasingly porous to capital, ideas, and challenges, the impact of globalization on political thought necessitates a re-evaluation of how we understand governance, justice, and our ethical obligations to one another across borders. One of the most profound shifts resulting from globalization is the transformation of state sovereignty. Historically, the nation-state has been viewed as the principal actor in international relations, endowed with absolute authority within its defined territory. However, the rise of global interconnectedness has altered this paradigm, as transnational forces, including multinational corporations, international organizations, and non-state actors, have emerged as influential participants shaping policies and decision-making processes. This blurring of boundaries raises critical questions about the efficacy of traditional state authority and its ability to address global issues that transcend national interests. Challenges like climate change, international terrorism, and migration demand coordinated responses that often exceed the capacity of individual national governments, prompting a rethinking of the role and influence of the state in addressing these multifaceted issues. In response to the complexities of globalization, global governance networks have emerged, characterized by a complex web of international organizations, treaties, and collaborative efforts among states and non-state actors. This multi-level governance system signifies a movement away from centralized authority towards a more decentralized approach to policymaking, where power is distributed among various actors operating at different levels: local, national, and global. Organizations such as the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and numerous non-governmental organizations facilitate cooperation on pressing global challenges, fostering partnerships across borders. These networks reflect an evolving understanding of governance that prioritizes collaboration, shared responsibilities, and collective action over unilateral decision-making. Central to the discourse on globalization is the concept of cosmopolitan justice, which argues for the ethical obligations that extend beyond national boundaries. Thinkers such as Martha Nussbaum and Thomas Pogge advocate for a moral and ethical framework that recognizes the rights and well-being of individuals regardless of their nationality. The notion of global citizenship challenges traditional political loyalties by emphasizing the interconnectedness of human experiences and the shared responsibilities we hold towards one another as members of a global community. Cosmopolitan justice asserts that justice should not be confined to domestic considerations, but must encompass the global context in which individuals live, thereby championing human rights, equality, and respect for all people. The challenges presented by globalization, such as economic inequality, cultural homogenization, and environmental degradation, further complicate our understanding of justice and governance. Addressing these interconnected issues requires a broad rethinking of political philosophy that considers the implications of global interdependence. Scholars argue that genuine justice necessitates not only local solutions, but also a commitment to global frameworks that prioritize equity and sustainability. This approach encourages a critical engagement with both the opportunities and risks that globalization presents. In conclusion, the relationship between globalization and political philosophy is marked by significant transformations that challenge conventional notions of state sovereignty and political authority. As national borders become increasingly permeable to global forces, the emergence of complex governance networks illustrates a shift towards multi-level approaches that value cooperation and collective action. Meanwhile, the principles of cosmopolitan justice urge us to expand our ethical obligations beyond our national identities, fostering a more inclusive understanding of global citizenship and shared responsibility. As political philosophy continues to grapple with these developments, it highlights the need for adaptable frameworks that can address the pressing challenges of our interconnected world, encouraging us to rethink how we approach justice, governance, and our collective. Environmental political philosophy. Environmental political philosophy represents a critical and evolving field of inquiry that seeks to integrate ecological considerations into the fabric of political thought. As the urgency of environmental crises, such as climate change, biodiversity loss, and resource depletion, becomes increasingly apparent, philosophical engagements with the environment prompt re-examinations of our ethical obligations toward nature, future generations, and each other. This branch of philosophy highlights the interconnectedness of social, political, and ecological systems, urging a more holistic approach to governance and ethical responsibility. Ecological citizenship is a key concept within environmental political philosophy that emphasizes our responsibilities toward non-human nature and future generations. It suggests that citizenship extends beyond human communities to encompass a broader ethical community that includes animals, plants, ecosystems, and the planet itself. Ecological citizens recognize their role in contributing to the health and sustainability of the environment, advocating for behaviors and policies that promote ecological integrity. This concept challenges us to rethink the notion of citizenship by incorporating ecological values into our understanding of rights and duties, emphasizing that individuals have a moral obligation to protect and preserve the natural world for both present and future inhabitants. Environmental justice further enriches the dialogue within environmental political philosophy by addressing the fair distribution of environmental benefits and burdens across different communities. This movement highlights the disproportionate impact of environmental degradation on marginalized and vulnerable populations, who often bear the brunt of pollution, resource depletion, and ecological harm while contributing the least to these issues. Environmental justice advocates argue for equitable access to clean air, water, green spaces, and other environmental resources, emphasizing that the fight for social justice cannot be separated from the fight for environmental health. This intersectional approach compels policymakers to consider how environmental policies affect various communities unequally and to implement inclusive practices that are sensitive to these disparities. Commons governance reflects another vital aspect of environmental political philosophy, focused on the collective management of shared natural resources. The concept of the commons has gained renewed attention as societies grapple with the challenges of overexploitation and unsustainable practices associated with privatization and market-driven approaches. Scholars such as Eleanor Ostrom have illustrated how communities can successfully manage shared resources such as fisheries, forests, and water through cooperative governance frameworks that prioritize collective responsibility and sustainability. Commons governance challenges prevailing notions of private property and market dynamics, advocating for democratic participation and community engagement in decision-making processes regarding resource use. Sustainability politics emerges as a framework for reconciling economic, social, and ecological needs. The push for sustainability recognizes that addressing environmental issues requires a paradigm shift in how societies conceptualize growth and development. Rather than prioritizing continuous economic expansion at the expense of the environment, sustainability politics calls for integrated approaches that consider the long-term health of ecosystems while ensuring social equity and economic viability. This perspective promotes practices such as green economic policies, sustainable agriculture, and renewable energy development, all aimed at fostering resilience and adaptability in the face of environmental challenges. Overall, environmental political philosophy broadens the scope of political inquiry by introducing non-human nature into the conversation and questioning anthropocentric governance practices that prioritize human interests to the detriment of the environment. It challenges traditional property concepts by advocating for stewardship and shared responsibility over resources, emphasizing the ethical implications of our relationships with the natural world. Furthermore, intergenerational justice becomes a central concern in these discussions as societies grapple with their responsibilities to future generations. The choices made today in terms of environmental policy, resource management, and economic structures will profoundly impact the well-being of those who come after us. Advocating for a just and sustainable future necessitates a commitment to forward-thinking policies that prioritize ecological integrity and human rights for generations yet unborn. In conclusion, environmental political philosophy offers crucial insights into the ethical and political dimensions of our relationship with the natural world. It encourages a re-evaluation of the concepts of citizenship, justice, and governance in light of ecological realities, advocating for practices that recognize the shared responsibilities we hold toward both the environment and future generations. As we confront the pressing environmental challenges of our time, engaging with these philosophical frameworks will be essential in shaping policies and fostering a more sustainable and equitable world. Technology and political systems. The integration of technology into political systems has ushered in a transformative era characterized by both enhanced citizen engagement and complex challenges regarding governance, privacy, and power dynamics. As digital tools continue to evolve, they reshape fundamental concepts such as democracy, participation, security, and accountability. This dual-edged nature of technology necessitates critical examination and careful consideration of its implications for contemporary political life. Digital democracy embodies the potential of technology to revolutionize citizen participation in governance. Online platforms have emerged as tools for fostering greater public input on policies, enabling citizens to voice their opinions, engage in discussions, and organize collective actions. Features like e-voting systems, digital town halls, and crowdsourced legislation exemplify how technology can facilitate direct and participatory democracy. However, the digital divide, The gap between those who have access to digital technologies and those who do not creates new political inequalities, undermining the notion of equal participation. Citizens lacking access to the internet or digital literacy may find themselves marginalized, raising concerns about the inclusivity of digital democratic initiatives. While technology can enhance participatory governance, it also poses significant challenges through the development of a surveillance state. Governments are equipped with unprecedented monitoring capabilities that can infringe upon individual privacy and civil liberties. The tension between security and privacy becomes increasingly pronounced as digital control mechanisms expand state power. Tools such as facial recognition, predictive policing, and social credit systems illustrate how technology can be utilized for surveillance and social control, reflecting a shift toward more authoritarian practices in some contexts. The use of these technologies raises ethical questions about the degree to which governments can monitor their citizens and the potential for abuse of such power. Moreover, current debates in political philosophy increasingly address the concept of algorithmic governance, where artificial intelligence in AI and automated systems play a role in policy implementation and decision-making. As data sets are leveraged to drive data-driven policymaking, questions arise regarding the transparency and accountability of algorithmic systems. If policy choices are determined by algorithms, the underlying biases of those algorithms may shape outcomes in ways that perpetuate existing inequities or discriminate against certain populations. Issues of algorithmic bias, the risk of reflecting and amplifying pre-existing social injustices, underscore the critical need for vigilant oversight and ethical considerations in the deployment of technology and governance. The emergence of automated decision systems represents both an opportunity and a challenge. These systems can streamline processes and improve efficiency in government operations, but they may also lead to a disconnect between policymakers and the citizens affected by these decisions. As decision-making becomes increasingly automated, the risk of eroding democratic accountability grows. Individuals may find it difficult to challenge or appeal decisions made by opaque algorithms. Maintaining human oversight and accountability in the face of technological advancements becomes imperative to ensure that democratic norms are upheld. The influence of technology extends beyond participation and governance. It reshapes fundamental political concepts such as privacy and freedom. The shift to digital interactions raises vital questions about the extent of surveillance individuals are willing to tolerate and the implications of data collection on personal liberties. As citizens navigate the balance between security measures and privacy rights, the conversations surrounding civil liberties become even more pressing in an age of pervasive digital monitoring. In summary, technology profoundly reshapes political systems and the very nature of democratic governance. While it offers tools for increased citizen participation and engagement, it also introduces new forms of control and challenges regarding privacy and accountability. Digital tools empower citizens but also raise critical ethical and practical concerns that necessitate ongoing investigation and debate. As technology continues to evolve, it is essential for political theorists, policymakers, and citizens alike to engage critically with these developments, striving to harness technological advancements for the promotion of democratic values while safeguarding against potential abuses of power and inequities. By navigating the complexities of this digital landscape, societies can work toward a future that embraces the possibilities of technology while remaining committed to the ideals of justice, political philosophy, and accountability in governance. The political philosophy of human rights encompasses a rich and complex discourse surrounding the nature, justification, and implementation of rights that are often deemed universal and inherent to all individuals. This field of inquiry seeks to address foundational questions about what constitutes human rights, how they are derived, and the role of culture and governance in their realization. As a consequence of globalization and increasing intercultural interactions, the philosophy of human rights navigates tensions between universal claims and particularistic cultural traditions, while also grappling with the practical challenges of implementation. Natural rights theory is one of the foundational approaches to human rights, asserting that rights are inherent to human nature and derived from the very existence of individuals. This philosophical perspective posits that human rights are universal and inalienable, existing independently of legal recognition. Thinkers like John Locke articulated these ideas, framing natural rights as fundamental to individuals' existence and dignity. According to natural rights theory, these rights include life, liberty, and property, and are not granted by governments or societies. Rather, they exist as moral imperatives that must be respected and protected. This concept of inherent rights serves as a cornerstone for various human rights movements and international declarations, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR. In contrast, legal positivism offers a different perspective on the nature of rights, emphasizing that rights exist primarily through formal legal frameworks. According to legal positivists, rights are bestowed and defined by laws, constitutions, and international agreements. This approach underscores the significance of state authority and legal institutions in establishing rights, suggesting that human rights should be grounded in recognized legal structures rather than abstract moral principles alone. International human rights law, which consists of treaties, conventions, and agreements, reflects this legalistic understanding of rights as articulated by legal scholars like H.L.A. Hart. The capabilities approach, notably advanced by philosophers such as Martha Nussbaum and Amartya Sen, introduces a nuanced framework that redefines human rights in terms of individuals' actual capabilities to exercise their freedoms and pursue a flourishing life. This perspective emphasizes that having rights is not sufficient without the real ability to act upon them. Thus, rights should guarantee access to essential human functioning such as education, health, and participation in social and political life. By focusing on capabilities, this approach calls attention to the conditions necessary for individuals to realize their rights and advocates for policies that empower people to live fulfilling lives, thus integrating human rights into broader developmental frameworks. A significant challenge to the philosophy of human rights arises from the perspective of cultural relativism. This viewpoint questions the universality of human rights by highlighting the diversity of cultural practices, beliefs, and social norms across different societies. Cultural relativists argue that the imposition of universal human rights standards may disregard and undermine diverse cultural traditions and ethical frameworks. This raises the important question of how to balance universal principles, such as freedom and equality, with respect for cultural diversity and local contexts. The dialogue between universalism and relativism emphasizes the need for inclusive discussions that recognize cultural particularities while striving for common ground in the pursuit of human dignity. As the discourse on human rights evolves, it increasingly addresses the complexities of sovereignty and international standards. The tension between state sovereignty and the enforcement of international human rights norms is a crucial area of concern. States often resist external pressures to conform to international human rights standards, citing their sovereignty and the right to self-determination. Navigating this tension calls for a delicate balance that respects state autonomy while promoting accountability for human rights violations. The challenge lies in creating mechanisms for the protection and promotion of human rights that are effective and just, respecting the integrity of national contexts while upholding universal standards. Despite the philosophical foundations and legal frameworks that seek to protect human rights, implementation challenges remain significant. Issues such as political will, systemic inequalities, lack of resources, and local resistance complicate efforts to realize these rights fully. Moreover, in many regions, socio-political conditions inhibit individuals from exercising their rights, raising critical questions about the effectiveness of existing frameworks in delivering justice and equity. In conclusion, the political philosophy of human rights encompasses diverse theoretical perspectives that grapple with the justification, scope, and practice of human rights in a complex and interconnected world. By examining natural rights, legal positivism, the capabilities approach, and the challenge of cultural relativism, we gain insights into the multifaceted nature of human rights. As we navigate contemporary issues surrounding sovereignty and implementation, the discourse on human rights continues to evolve, striving to find solutions that honor both universal principles and cultural diversity, while fostering a more just and equitable global society. Future of political philosophy. The landscape of political philosophy is undergoing a paradigm shift as it confronts unprecedented challenges posed by technological transformation, the climate crisis, and significant demographic shifts. In light of these global issues, political philosophy must evolve to develop new theoretical frameworks that can adequately address the complexities and interconnections of contemporary society. Technological transformation. The rapid advancement of technology, especially in areas such as artificial intelligence, digital communication, and data analytics, has profound implications for governance, civil liberties, and societal interactions. Political philosophy must critically examine the ethical ramifications of increased surveillance, algorithmic decision-making, and the manipulation of information that accompany technological progress. New frameworks will be necessary to address questions of privacy, security, digital identity, and political representation in an increasingly digitized world. Philosophers may need to grapple with the roles of tech companies and platforms in shaping public discourse and influencing political outcomes, advocating for a re-evaluation of power dynamics in the context of digital citizenship and governance. Climate crisis. The urgency of the climate crisis poses a fundamental challenge to existing political philosophies. The implications of environmental degradation, ranging from resource scarcity and migration to public health crises, necessitate a re-evaluation of our ethical obligations to the planet and future generations. Political philosophy must incorporate ecological considerations into its frameworks, promoting sustainability and environmental justice as central tenets of governance. New theories may arise that address the common good in an interconnected ecological context and emphasize the need for collective action, global cooperation, and intergenerational equity. This evolution calls for a blend of environmentalism with social and political theories to develop holistic approaches to climate justice and the rights of non-human nature. Demographic shifts. Global demographic changes, including migration, aging populations, and increasing cultural diversity, require political philosophy to reflect on issues of identity, belonging, and inclusivity. The rise of diverse social movements advocating for the rights of marginalized communities, such as racial, ethnic, and LGBTQ+ groups, highlights the need for theories that prioritize justice, equity, and representation. Political philosophy must engage with questions about nationalism and cosmopolitanism, exploring how to balance the needs and rights of different cultural and social groups within political systems. This evolution necessitates a focus on intersectionality, recognizing the interconnectedness of various forms of identity and oppression while promoting frameworks that enable participatory governance and social solidarity. Global governance. As issues like climate change, pandemics, and economic inequalities transcend national borders, political philosophy must increasingly address the challenges of global governance. Multipartite frameworks will be necessary to navigate the balance between state sovereignty and the need for international cooperation. Concepts of global justice will gain prominence as philosophers explore how to address systemic inequalities on a global scale and advocate for equitable resource distribution. This shift may prompt new discussions about the legitimacy of international institutions, accountability mechanisms, and the role of civil society in shaping global policies. Adaptation of ethical frameworks. Lastly, the challenges of the future will require adapting existing ethical frameworks to meet contemporary realities. This might involve reconceptualizing human rights, citizenship, and governance structures to incorporate more nuanced understandings of justice that reflect the complexities of global interconnectedness. Ethical considerations around technology, environmental responsibility, and cultural pluralism will necessitate new moral paradigms that respond to the needs of a rapidly changing world. In conclusion, the future of political philosophy occupies a critical juncture where traditional frameworks must be scrutinized and reimagined in light of unprecedented challenges. Engaging with technological transformation, the climate crisis, and demographic shifts necessitates innovative theoretical approaches that embrace complexity, inclusivity, and collective responsibility. As political philosophers work to address these pressing global issues, their insights will be essential in guiding societies toward just, equitable, and sustainable futures, ensuring that philosophical inquiry remains relevant and impactful in an ever-evolving world. The interplay of ethics, governance, and social justice will shape the discourse of political philosophy in the coming decades, fostering the development of new ideas that align with the realities of contemporary life. Conclusion: the continuing relevance of political philosophy. Political philosophy stands as a vital discipline that continues to offer significant insights and tools for understanding and navigating the complexities of the modern world. In an era marked by rapid changes and unprecedented challenges, ranging from technological disruption and climate crises to social inequalities and global conflicts, political philosophy provides the critical frameworks necessary for analyzing power dynamics, assessing governance structures, and motivating informed civic engagement. Critical thinking. At its core, philosophy encourages critical thinking, equipping individuals with the analytical tools required to interrogate the structures of power and governance that shape their lives. By fostering a mindset that questions dominant narratives, challenges assumptions, and evaluates political claims, philosophy empowers citizens to hold their leaders accountable and engage actively in democratic processes. This analytical rigor is essential for maintaining a healthy public discourse and ensuring that diverse perspectives are considered in policy decisions. Ethical framework. Political philosophy also serves as a repository of ethical frameworks that help individuals and societies navigate difficult moral questions. Through the exploration of principled approaches, whether derived from natural rights theory, consequentialism, or virtue ethics, philosophical traditions provide guidance in balancing competing values and addressing complex ethical dilemmas. As societies grapple with contentious issues such as wealth distribution, human rights, and environmental responsibility, philosophical inquiry offers the necessary ethical clarity to navigate these challenges and promote justice and equity. Reimagining possibilities. Furthermore, political philosophy inspires us to envision better systems and alternative futures. It challenges us to think critically about the status quo and to imagine more just, inclusive, and sustainable societies. By evaluating historical and contemporary models of governance, political philosophers encourage us to reimagine possibilities for social organization that prioritize human dignity, freedom, and ecological balance. This forward-thinking aspect of political philosophy is crucial for fostering innovation in public policy and for envisioning new forms of civic engagement that reflect the values of a diverse and interconnected world. Ultimately, political philosophy remains essential for navigating our complex political landscape. Its inquiries into justice, freedom, and good governance are timeless, continuing to resonate with the fundamental human quest for a more equitable and meaningful existence. By engaging with the questions raised by political philosophy, individuals and communities are empowered to participate more fully in the ongoing dialogue about the nature of power, authority, and the common good. As we confront the challenges of our contemporary era, the insights gleaned from political philosophy will prove invaluable in shaping our collective futures. The discipline not only informs our understanding of current events, but also provides pathways toward achieving enduring values of justice, freedom, and sustainability. In fostering thoughtful engagement with political ideas, philosophy plays a critical role in cultivating a more informed, empathetic, and active citizenry, capable of working together to build a better world for all.